All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Counselor Daigle,
I am here.
Counselor Whitaker,
Here.
Counselor Smalley, Counselor Grousman,
Here.
Counselor Hamilton, Counselor Boggs,
Here.
Mayor Sumner,
Here.
all present.
Introduction media. Anyone wishing to is there any media present? Anyone wishing to speak before the city council tonight on any subject matter will need to fill out the speaker form and turn it into the recorder. Forms are available on the sign-in table in the back of the room. Please turn cell phones off or silence them during the meeting. Announcement for Zoom attendees. If you're joining Zoom tonight's meeting via Zoom, you will automatically be muted upon entry, and you'll need to identify yourself with your full name is not already attached to the device being used. You will be unable to unmute yourself. If you wish to speak, use the raise your hand feature. To use it, click on the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and click on the image of the hand. Public comment. The purpose of this public comment period is to allow citizens to present information or raise issues regarding agenda items only. There will be a time at the end of the meeting for citizens to speak about off-agenda items. A time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. All citizens must come up to the microphone. Any public comment? Any public comment?
I do not have anything for public comment. Thank you. Sorry. I'm trying to Zoom stuff here. Sorry.
Other announcements. Which one? Wayne Ellsworth?
Madam Mayor, actually, it's me. Thank you so very much. I wanted to take a moment and I put us on a clock of maybe 10, 15 minutes maximum. We want to take a moment to talk to you about how we strategized and been working towards dealing with the issue of homelessness and campers throughout the city now being refocused on a single lot. As you may recall, 2 meetings ago, we were, because it became so flagrant, had to start forcing those that were sleeping in public spaces, in businesses, and defecating in certain areas, and in fact setting fires and behaving inappropriately, force them to go onto a site that the city provided as per the Oregon Court of Appeals and the Oregon Legislature. With that, there was a made announcement at the council meeting that was meant to be temporary, that we're working on a larger, more remote site that would be less obtrusive and less contact with basically children's schools and public safety in general across the board. We began developing that site much more quickly than we anticipated, but because of the significant outcry from neighborhoods close to schools and all that, we moved them a little earlier than we had wanted. But that has begun and is working adequately at this time. However, I did mention to you that we have a bigger plan, a bigger idea, and a thought process that will alleviate the overriding concerns locally. What I've done is working in a team environment with Pat Lynch and Wayne Ellsworth, began this process of putting together this plan as you see it. I've come to have high regard for the work, the credentials, and what direction Wayne Ellsworth wants to take this. We are going to be working with him at creating a 501c3 that will ultimately operate this and work in conjunction with the county and the other cities at implementing a regional center. I have both Wayne and Pat working simultaneously in directions towards each other. So While Wayne and I are working at the local government level, Wayne is focused on the county as well as Pat Lynch is working on the county, but we tasked Pat Lynch with recruiting leadership and stakeholder and financial support from the federal government all the way down to the county. And so he's begun that networking and recruitment. So with that, I want you to get an idea of the skill set that we're bringing to this project, the vision and the agenda that we're putting forth. And I'll start with Pat and let him talk about what he's doing, and then close with Wayne talking about not only what he's doing now, but what he's proposing to do as we move forward in conjunction to making this happen.
Here, you want me up there? Can I speak?
Pick you up on the microphone better.
I'm afraid of that. I'll try to keep this brief. I know that the time is always a commodity here that we don't like to squander. Just to let you know where I'm starting, other than doing a great deal of research about on both a West Coast look and a national look at what kind of plans and solutions are available in general. Jerry's asking to start with the county, and I've already had one somewhat lengthy conversation with Chris Boyce. The commissioners, I think, are in a position like they were when we located the ground we're now using for our camp to be supportive in any way they can of anything we do. And they're kind of expecting us and maybe the multiple number of organizations we're in contact with to kind of take the lead on this. And I think because of the nature of the law, I mean, we've got kind of a wall on one side created by the Ninth Circuit and codified by our legislature now. Actually, the Oregon laws are more strict and more confining than the federal law. So we've got to respond to that. We've done so effectively. We're the only ones in this county that have acted on this, which is kind of alarming and sad in its own way. But then we've also got the folks in our community that are concerned about doing this well. And so we want to do this in the proper way. And so I'm looking predominantly for funding sources. In the last legislative session, there were 6 bills passed that are now enacted fully. There are millions and millions and millions of dollars that have been thrown at this. A lot of it, I think, was already allocated before the bill was even written. But there's a lot of money out there, but there are no programs at the state level to help us directly. So we're going to have to help ourselves with this. We're also starting at the national level. I kind of am a believer in working from the top down, which makes me annoying to a lot of people, but sometimes it gets things done that don't otherwise happen. So we're talking to our senators and our federal representative, and we're going to look and see if there isn't some a funding source that they've got squirreled away somewhere in the bills that no one has read yet, and maybe we can find federal funding sources as well. It's complicated to do this. We have to obey the law, which is where we've kind of started in terms of trying to manage our community in a sensitive, sensible way. And then taking additional steps if we're looking at a regional solution, and that is what we're looking at. We are able then to prepare a program and have different phases that folks that want to get a house around them and a roof over their head can follow, so that we can get them rehoused, because a home is the answer to homelessness. Obviously, we're not doing a real great job of that right now, and it's a real difficult time in Oregon because housing is in such short supply. So I'm going to be contacting a lot of different people on behalf of the city to see if we can engage them in helping us solve this problem, and putting a program together that will serve as a pilot, perhaps for a great deal of the West Coast. There are some programs not too far away that I think Wayne will speak to briefly that look like they're going to be effective. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to steal the best ideas we can and put them to work. But we've got a big problem on the West Coast. 56% of the homeless people in this country reside in California, Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii. in the whole country. So it's a big problem. And it's not going to go away. I don't think it's going to get any better in the short term. So we're looking at a set of solutions that maybe will provide an avenue for our homeless community to help solve their own problems. That's it for now. We'll be reporting regularly on what kind of results we get and where we see this going. But if you have any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them.
I don't have a question, but it seems like to me that there's a lot of people that don't understand that we have to obey a law of the state of Oregon and the Ninth Circuit that says that we don't have any choice but to supply the homeless people with certain things. We have no choice. It would seem like we should put out some kind of a document from the city that says what that is, so that everybody understands, because everybody doesn't come to the city council meetings, and there's a lot of people that just don't understand why we're doing anything.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. We do have choices. One of the things we could have done is what we were doing before, which was nothing. But then you have a growing problem that becomes more and more annoying, and we have health risks and other things going on. So what we're doing is one of the very few things you can do. And I think you're right. The state certainly did a very poor job of telling anybody what they were doing when they passed that legislation. And the Ninth Circuit, I don't think too many people spend a whole lot of time reading their rules. So that's something that we should do, but there's more to it than just that, I'm afraid. So I don't disagree, but what that looks like and how we get it out is problematic. We don't have a newspaper, we have no radio station. The multimedia news outlet for Sutherland is Facebook, and that's about a third choice in my book. I think we'll probably be addressing that. But I think we want to be a little bit more concrete once we talk about this a little bit more and have a clear direction. Then I think it will be really effective to tell our community that, here's where we're going, here's where we see this going, and here are the steps along the way, and here's why we've got to do it this way. Because I think you are right. Anyone else? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Wayne?
You do planner, right? I didn't have to do mine. It's kind of nice. How's it going, everybody? My name is Wayne Ellsworth, and I just want to thank the city council, the mayor, city manager for allowing me to speak today on this, because it's very exciting stuff that's going on, and I'm very, very excited to be the person representing this, being a citizen of Sutherland. My wife and I, we moved here about 5 years ago, and that's when I got into the line of work that I do. So for the last 5 years, I've been a homeless outreach coordinator for ADAPT Integrated Health. For the last 4 years, I've been the chair facilitator of the Homeless Transition Action Group of Douglas County. For the last 4 years, I've also been a board chair member of the Oregon Coalition on Housing Homelessness. So with that, HTAG, which is the group that I'll be representing tonight, the Homeless Transition Action Group, has been a part of the last 7 years creating policy and initiatives surrounding homelessness in Douglas County. And out of these, we actually have a couple of people on the call tonight that have been big supporters with Captain Paul and Leah Greco, been supporting some of our initiatives currently. With doing this, Jerry has asked me to talk about things that HTAG has been able to create in conjunction with a lot of different other organizations that we partner with. So HTAG was the one that suggested in the beginning when it comes to the formation of the Sobering Center. So in 2017, the local public safety coordinating council had a sequential intercept mapping meeting where they found a sobering center that was beneficial to our county, and that came to fruition to ADAPT. Another thing that they talked about was the idea of having some sort of engagement when it comes to homelessness navigation center. now we're having conversations about that, which is also another HTAG initiative. We also were able to, in 2017, we were able to partner with the local public safety coordinating council with the county to create an initiative called Connecting Point. That initiative now is about 15 people, organizations deep, in creating mobile outreach initiatives through Roseburg and into South County and Myrtle Creek, and we'll be soon moving into Sutherland. And then also with a laundry initiative, now that's been going through Roseburg, we now can offer laundry initiative through 4 different towns in Douglas County. So these things that we're trying to create is trying to create avenues for folks for people to come in and create transition. And we've been through HTAG, through the LPSCC and other partnered agencies, we've been able to create a lot of transition or a lot of movement into getting people from the situation they are moving into something different when it comes to a coordinated approach to like case management. So when I was approached with this, I pretty much said that I was a lawyer. Everyone is able to do something that I have not been able to create. And I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into creating a initiative where we are able to shelter folks to be able to create transition. Through the HTAG group, we made it a point to be able to look at different avenues to create things like this. So we reached out to the Salvation of our Army of Eugene, Carried Forward of Eugene. We talked to the Devereaux Center in Coos Bay. We've reached out to the Rogue Retreat in Jackson and Josephine counties. And we took all of those different kinds of plans and we put it together in a plan. And we have it here, and we have a design laid out for you guys to see. And I did not draw this because it would look like the kindergartner drew it out. So this is really nice.
Diane drew it.
It's very cool. So it shows to the left of what we have, but then it shows this big picture. And the big picture is to really find a place where people can be. And with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that Larry was talking about, you're absolutely right. We have to be able to find a low barrier solution to folks so they would have a spot. Because right now we have no means of housing folks who are on the street or to get a viable shelter that fits within that Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So we are trying to create something that would be able to abide by those. We would also be able to create transitions. With HTAG, you're partnered with, like I said, about 15 different agencies that are structured around specifically transition. And we are able to work with this community to be able to work together to have a coordinated approach to this. So we're looking to be able to continue this to help folks get to that next step of life, whatever it could be. And myself, my brother back there that's been over at the camp with me, and Pastor Andre, we've been working with these folks in a coordinated approach to help these folks find out what they need on their own terms to help them get to that next step. I've been helping now for about 3 weeks. I also, through ADAPT and HTAG, we're able to, and an Uncle Health Alliance, be able to get a self-contained shower trailer and laundry. So we're able to offer showers for these folks once a week. And by doing that, we ask questions like, why is it that you came into homelessness and whatnot? And we have found out that right now there's about 12 to 14 on any given night staying the night at this sanctioned camp, and only one of them is not from Sutherland. The other one is from Roseburg. So that's always a misconception of where are these folks coming from. They're usually coming right from our backyards. But through these conversations, we've been able to get folks to get them help with their primary care. We've been able to get them contacted to their mental health or substance use. We've been able to help them work on paperwork for housing to get reintegrated with their children. We've been able to help them with the paperwork to get them eyewear. So we've been working on many different things to get them to that next step with the tools that we have currently. And I believe that with the approach that we have going on, and now with the support that we could have from the city of Sutherland and from the county, that we have a really good shot at being able to take this and bring it mainstream to be able to help all of the citizens in Douglas County. But we want to make sure we take care of our people first. So when it comes to other initiatives that HTAG and myself have been able to coordinate, we've also been able to partner. 3 minutes. We've also been able to partner with the jail to be able to go into the jails before people are released. And I've done this since 2017, also 2018, to be able to meet with people who are incarcerated that actually deal with homelessness, to be able to offer them resources before they were to be able to be released. So we'd help them with healthcare, OHP and whatnot, and other resources. So there's a lot of different avenues that we've been able to help with as HTAG. And I would just like to be at a place with the city of Sutherland to be able to take this kind of plan and see it out and make sure that it's a success, because looking at it and knowing what kind of supports that we have, I believe that we can have a really good impact on the things that are going on. And I would love to be a part of that and run this. So I guess that's what I got for now. Any questions for me at all? Yes, sir.
What success rate have you had in moving people from a tent forward?
So myself, I would like to say that I had some sort of impact on at least one person a month since I started doing this job in 2016. COVID made a little bit of a dent in that. It made it really, really hard. But at the same time, it's not about me, it's about the community. So with our partnerships with, we're going to say organizations like Onward, HIV Alliance, Uncle Health Alliance, just all these different groups, we work together as a collaborative, it's a community, and we help each other, help these folks on the street be successful. And another group that is very good at transitioning folks is an organization called Onward. And we were just at a place where they were talking about what they do on Saturday, and they were able to, in the last 6 months, transition 28 people off the streets of Roseburg into permanent supportive housing. So we all do this together. We're a collaborative, and you know, we would continue to extend that to this kind of model, being able to have everybody there. And with that point, with the LPSDC, we partnered to create what's called Connecting Point. Like I said before, it's a mobile engagement center where we go where the people are at and offer direct access to these services. So it's made us a lot more successful when we work together. Any other questions for me?
For your planned regional site, do you have any idea of where that you're looking at having it located?
I have a big idea where it's going to be. It's going to be somewhere. Yeah. And that place is going to be awesome. But it's
You're looking at something that's centrally located.
centrally, yeah, centrally located is the goal. But we want to make it, you know, big enough where we can actually implement these models that you see. And I just don't know where that's going to be yet, and who is going to be the leader of that property.
So it's not big enough there on that whole corner.
Are we talking about Hastings? So a small model could be originated at that place. But really, in order to be effective, I believe that we need to be able to take this on on a bigger scale. And I don't believe Sutherland would have the room to do that.
You're saying centrally located being Douglas County.
Douglas County. We've already got myself with HTAG and the other members of HTAG. We already have a lot of good relationships with the local. to be able to do this outreach and to talk to them about this model and start getting backing for it all over.
At the end of the day, Madam Mayor, members of council, we believe that this should and hopefully will be a template for all rural counties in Oregon. And the reason it, just as it needs to be regional, where we're all in this together, working on it together. The Sutherland folks that come through the program, we anticipate coming back to Sutherland as they're fully recovered and a place to come there, and we're going to work to accommodate them. And we need the other cities to do it. But the way this works, and the best way it'll work, if all the other counties do it as well, so there isn't this, oh, they're the only county in town, and all of a sudden we become, a destination resort. And, but we also, that's why Pat is really charged with getting the federal electeds to see this as a worthy first investment to show all the other counties how it can be done, especially in the rural counties. The more larger populated counties have such a wide variety of issues and population bases that I don't know if it would work or not, but that's up to them.
The goal in this transition is homeownership or permanent supportive housing, depending on what they qualify for, and it will take the entire county, the entire community to make this happen.
I don't know who wants to answer it. Is there grants available for any of this kind of stuff?
Yes.
The short answer is yes. It's complicated because there are qualifications galore on the state money. But there, like I said, there are, I've so far have discussed 6 different House bills that are passed and enrolled. And there's literally hundreds of millions of dollars. As you might guess, most of it is already assigned to areas where we rather not have it said that there are specific grant monies available for rural counties as well. So yeah, and it's all relatively new. I mean, this is all in the last legislative, not the emergency session, but the last session. So all of the strictures have not been worked out at the state level yet. And so we're early on in getting into this, which is probably good.
There's money specifically slated to for permanent supportive housing for those. I mean, when we get into, without giving too much information, when we get into specific demographics, and there's money for those kind of things that we can definitely incorporate.
I was just gonna add maybe that if there's anyone that is concerned about it. I was by there Saturday, and that was, I think it had been a week or 2 prior to that. And so there was a huge difference. It looked very clean, organized. The guy that met me at the fence, he was very nice. Very thankful. And so I was impressed how much they cleaned up, and I'm sure it's from you guys helping. So I just wanted to let them know that.
If you give me like a couple more seconds to talk to that.
Talk to the mayor.
On the human side of that, we know that when you walk into the camp, there's a gentleman by the gate right there. He's the gatekeeper. He's the one
There's
that,
nobody at the gate.
well, I mean, he sits a little bit off, but I mean, he's the one that does security only. And then when you get to the back tent in the middle, that's where the pantry and the supply closet is, that everybody can, it's like a co-op. Everybody can put in, everybody can take out. And then there's also a camp cook, and then there's 3 other workers that make sure that the camp is clean. And then, of course, we go out there and we help out the folks in many different ways, either with resources, with spiritual backing, and whatever else. It's very
Is there
exciting.
something going across the street? Do we have anything to do with that? There's behind the, I don't know if that's a county thing, just right across the street. Because there's a motorhome or.
It's a, no, that's
It's a private business.
Because they were out there cooking, and I thought, I wonder if they're cooking for them or.
But we've already seen a lot of local citizens looking to volunteer to be able to be helpful. And we have received supplies to make their stay a little successful. So we're looking forward to the future to be able to supply them with more resources that would ultimately support the transition.
So if people want to take something over there, would you rather go to you guys first? Or just drop it off?
So far, people have been reaching out to me, and I would collect it, and I would give it to them because they are at this point self-governing. So they would be taking the supplies and being able to distribute it to whoever needs it at this point. So I would definitely collect it.
I know there's some other people, and I'm pretty sure they said they just drop them off. So
Yes, there's other folks that definitely. do. Any other questions for me or concerns that I might be able to help with?
thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
On the presentations, audit report. Finance Director.
Madam Mayor, city councilors, Tammy Scrubbers, Finance Director. You see my staff report in your packet. If there's no action being asked, so just our report on how the annual report went. And I'm very pleased to say that it was a clean audit. It issued an opinion with no reservations. There were some highlights, first like 2 pages of the highlights, and I'm not going to read through all of those 20 some odd points, but there were a couple things I wanted to just go over and clarify with you, just in case you hadn't read the management discussion and analysis letter that I had done. The second bullet point there cites a note that I made on page M of the MD&A in terms of there was $618 in the city manager budget that we went actually over the line item. And I had just addressed that two things. First place, I wasn't feeling like it was imperative to do a budget adjustment for $618. I just want you to know, I knew it was going to go over, and that is such an immaterial amount. And Dan had already let me know that they can go over by 5% without needing any kind of approval. But it did get mentioned in the audit, and which I thought was interesting. He forgot to tell me about that. But the reason that happened is that when they switched his health insurance premium over to his wage, there were some additional taxes, overhead taxes that went with that, the change, because when it's health insurance premium, there's those taxes do not apply, but once it becomes wage, and that is the only reason that was even over his budget at all. So I just want you to know that was not his fault. Just saying. And then if you go down to like the fifth bullet point there, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Uncorrected misstatements noted during the audit and discussed with management, and these were minor items. And I would just like to say that those were miscommunications, like maybe to the tune of $1,500 on the accounts receivable adjustment that I had said, hey, I found this reconciliation, tied it out, it needs to be adjusted. Do you want to do that in your year-end adjustments you're going to send me, or do you want me to do that in my book right now? And what obviously a report like this is a very complex spreadsheet to put together. Those guys do a lot of work, and it was very informative for me to work with them during this, but you don't want to pound them with minutia in the middle of this, because those things get lost. And so that was a $1,500 adjustment on a miscellaneous accounts receivable that he didn't adjust, and I had not adjusted either. And so we talked about it, and he said, you know what, why don't we just catch that on the next time? So I was in complete agreement. And other than that, it was a great, I would say a great experience. We had just some good discussion. They had mentioned some things from the prior audit that I had pulled out of the management letter. And a few of those things I went ahead and addressed, so they didn't have to list them again on the, if we would wish that you would increase your crime liability. Well, we did that when we renewed the insurance. We wish that you had some sort of in case of an emergency recovery plan. And we put together one of those. And so there were just a few things that we had addressed before the year end. And I think that they were happy with that. So Do you have any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, you should be proud of yourself and you're to be commended because coming in towards the tail end of this last budget year and taking over for somebody else and somebody that's never dealt with municipal finance, I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
I'd like to comment on the record and ask the judge to strike that comment. So that a raise will not be asked for in the morning.
Negative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sports Pond Project. Brian.
Summer City Council, Brian Lake, Development Director.
What
Staff
happened?
reports to give an update regarding Forge Pond. One is
Happened.
a project 2, if you will. Project
left.
1 being the infrastructure, stormwater, sewer, electricity, 0.8 miles of the paved
My
path
thing left.
and the parking off of Church Road. This project consists of the ADA accessible restrooms, an additional 600 feet of trail, 3 pavilions. The pavilions will have water, electricity, and a
Sorry.
real concrete pathway for the field. And then also it's going to include the 0.9 miles, an additional 0.9 miles of that 1.7 mile path around Forge Pond. This, for the record, is still pending the approval from the Oregon Parks and Recs Department.
It's like all of a
We
sudden
are
it's
waiting
gone.
comment back from the Grand Bond Indians regarding our subsurface archaeological survey. As you guys know, it was negative. There was nothing found, so we have not received our award on those 2 grants or the notice to proceed. So as far as the team, we haven't moved forward on any of that because if we do before we receive that notice to proceed, we are responsible financially for that. Across the board on a lot of the projects that we're dealing with, we've seen a significant cost increase. Saying 50% plus on these projects, as well as this one. I have with me today Dave Broder with DLA. We posted a artist rendering in the front, and ultimately that is our goal at Forge Pond. But we know with the financial restraints and stuff that it's going to be a phased approach. This is the 60%, so I'm sure at the 90% level, you guys are going to see a lot different because we're going to have to scale back because we just financially at this time we don't have the funds because of the pandemic and the cost increases. So Dave is going to give it's about a 23 slide PowerPoint.
I would like the whole intro on it.
That's our goal.
Come on,
That is our goal 100.
It's nice.
We would all like the full meal deal. And yes, I'm David Doherty from DLA based in Eugene. We are the lead consultant for the phase 2 of the project. Brian had described phase 1, and I'll give you some details of what's happening in phase 2. Also, a part of our team is Anita Van Esprit from Land Current. She is an expert on inclusive and natural play environments, and she's been an integral part of our team. We also have Dyer Partnership to accommodate the engineering needs of the project. So we've been working closely with Brian, city staff, the Friends of Ford Pond, and our consultant team to design and document the phase 2 of the park. And as Brian had mentioned, please keep in mind that it's 60%. There's still some moving pieces here, and we would all like the full meal deal, but if it doesn't happen now, it will happen later. We'll just have to fine tune the budget and get what we can and prioritize what is most important. Okay, let's move on to the second slide. The big blob you see there in the middle is the pond itself, and the east and north part of the path has already been completed as part of phase 1. And so the west and south part of the path will complete the circuit. And we're excited about that. But as Brian had mentioned, it's subject to other jurisdictional approvals at this point. So we haven't moved forward with real detailed documentation. The green circle in the lower right at the southeast corner is our focus area for phase 2, which includes the all-inclusive playground, the restroom, shade facilities, site work, some pool amenities, furnishings, integration of art, and other amenities. Okay. So what you see here, these circles, the green circle in the upper left is the idea that as you walk around the pond, there's a ball planet there. And that would be a great area that's been identified by the Friends of Ford's Pond for a bird watching facility. So that's the one structure shown in the upper right images there. And then the other two images are the pavilions and the restroom, which is shown on that enlargement in the middle location. Okay. Here is the overall site plan of our focus area. It includes, you know, my pointer doesn't work on this screen, so I can't point things out, but includes the restroom, which is near the parking lot located, so it's easily accessible from there and from the playground. The playground is a little bit of a lower level. And it includes, now when I talk about all-inclusive natural playground, what that means is it's a playground designed for all ages, not just children, but also adults, all abilities, including the autism spectrum and disabilities. So it's open to all. We think it's a great idea. It would be a destination for those with disabilities and those that are capable as well. So we're excited that families, grandparents, and children of all ages can use this park and playground. What you see here, the blue area is the more active area. Then there's a more passive area to the right, which includes a large lawn. We'll look at these items in more detail as we look through these slides. Okay. Here is just an overall image of some of the elements that it's natural play. Basically, we're talking about natural play, imaginative play. It's not your conventional play equipment, but rather ideas that that require imagination of the kids to use. Oh, by the way, the overall theme is in keeping with the pond itself. Everything's all about the pond. And so the elements in many of the elements in the play area reflect the pond itself. Okay. This is just a diagram of the more active area that represents the blue areas represent the pond that you can see here. And the different colors represent different soft surfacing within that more active area. Okay. So this next series of slides shows specifically some of the elements, and I won't go into detail of these, but this item is a pump that can actively be operated by children, whether in wheelchairs or they're able-bodied. And the red circle shows where it's located within the park. So it's a water play. They can pump water, play in the water. It gets in the sand, and you know, they can use their imagination from there. Okay.
That's cool.
This is called this element is called talking tubes. So somebody can talk in one tube, and then somebody some distance away can communicate back and forth. So kids love it, and you can talk to your children through these, and pretend you don't know where they are, and who knows. Okay. These are slides, embankment slides. They're built into the hillside, and they can accommodate all abilities. They can accommodate a parent going down with their child. And then you use what we're calling a rock scramble to return to the upper level.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. This element is called an Oodle Swing, which seems to be fairly popular. It's not your conventional swing, but you can swing around in circles. You can accommodate a number of children, and they seem to love this element. Okay. This is called a We Go Round. It's an apparatus that, you know, like a merry-go-round type of thing. You can push it around, and it can accommodate wheelchairs and children of all abilities.
That's cool.
Okay. Sound is a part of this park, making music, making instrumental type of sounds. And this is located centrally near the more active area. And yeah, kids use their imagination here as well. Okay. The Friends of Ford's Pond recommended, and I think this is more of a local manufacturer that makes these table tennis, ping pong table type of thing.
Cool.
It's heavy duty and, you know, provides just another element of play. There's a really wide diversity of these amenities for play, as you can see. Okay. We're not supplying the equipment. They have to bring their own stuff. BYOP, your own paddle. This is a fishing pier. It's sort of the central piece of that pond area of the playground, and it kind of represents an opportunity for you know, kids to climb up on this facility. They can jump off, they can come off on this netting, and you know, pretend and imagine that they're actually at the pond. Okay. Of course, what would a pond be without a boat? So this is a pretty popular play amenity for children. It can accommodate all different disabilities to get in and out and pretend that you're a pirate or a captain or something. Okay. We thought it was pretty fascinating that there's actually beaver lodges in the pond. I know it's a nuisance to Larry and others. No, not beavers, neutrinos or whatever you call it. Oh, I thought that the lodges clogged up the waterways. Oh, well. Okay, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought, but anyway, we were inspired to have a feature within the play area modeled around the idea of a beaver lodge. So using wood structures that they can climb on, they can go into, and pretend that they're a beaver. Okay.
I like it.
This is a log stack area, just a natural thing where kids can jump up on kind of tree stumps, jump from one to the other, weave in between them, and have a good time. Okay. This is the log forest. We're trying to find locally sourced cedar logs, cedar or redwood, to use to create this kind of pseudo forest that children can play in, hide amongst, weave through, crawl through, or you know, whatever they wherever their imagination takes them. Okay. Okay, those were the features. Oh, I might just back up and say, you know, we've had this public outreach for all these ideas, including an open house. What was that, a couple of weeks ago? And so all these ideas have evolved with the community's input, and so there's really some ownership, and you know, we anticipate that it's going to be, you know, well received once this is all built. What you're looking at here is just the beginnings of a planting plan. I don't know if you guys have been to the phase 1, but we tried to use mostly native plants that you find in this region, and we're going to continue that in phase 2, where we use mostly all native plants, but then also emphasizing some areas with color, you know, splashes of color here and there. We're going to have some areas of more natural meadow with perhaps poppies growing out of them to provide the color and texture, seasonal interest that will make it interesting all year long. So we're at about 60% here, and we're continuing to develop a more detailed plan. Okay.
Is that the same one?
Next slide.
Oh, you know what? I made it larger. And so now it's just, oopsie. There we go.
Oh, here's the fun
Sorry.
part. Here's what you've all been waiting for, the cost estimate. Please keep in mind that it's very preliminary at this point. If you add everything up, including, you know, the 0.9 mile pathway, the restrooms, the shelters, the all-inclusive play area, all the concrete work, some walls, amenities, furnishings, all those components, it comes out to somewhere around 2.8 million. About probably about 500,000 of that is the playground itself, and then you add on the pathways, the building structures, and everything adds up. We realize we're going to have to do some value engineering, as Brian had mentioned, probably some phasing, but we're going to work closely as a team to figure out what the highest priorities are within the budget and maximize what we can get with the money available. I know the Friends of Ford's Pond are seeking additional grant money right now, some of which may be used for the extension of the parking lot up above to accommodate larger vehicles and even RVs. And then some additional grant money may go back toward the play area itself as well. So this is all very preliminary and evolving as we go. And as Brian had mentioned, it's crazy how the construction costs in general in this region have gone up in just since the COVID period. You know, in some cases it's doubled the cost. Okay. So here's the grand vision, and this is what you see on the plan on the table there. You can see the more active blue pond environment beyond. You see the grand lawn in the foreground, and then the log forest, the slides that are built into the hillside. So it gives you a good overall image. You can see the two shade pavilions there that can be used for picnicking, and the 4-stall restroom up above with an extended roof to provide more shade. We know the shade is extremely important here because we all know how hot it gets if you can't find shade. You can see the trees that will assist with shade as well. Okay, I think we have one more slide. This is just an enlargement of that, a more active play area, which we're all excited about. That's what I had. Are there any questions? Yes.
Eventually, is there room for more larger water features? Kind of like our splash park type of stuff?
There has been some talk of that. There has not been talk of a more, regional draw of that. We have the small pump water feature, but at this point, that's not part of the plans.
No, I meant.
In the future, it could be. Yeah, there is a master plan that's kind of governing what we do. That's not a part of it. However, it's never too late if that's something that's popular and in the community's best interest, and that could be accommodated at a later phase. There's plenty of acreage out there.
Yeah, it's definitely popular in that area. Like you say, as hot as it is in summertime, that place is packed over here, so it'd be awesome and a big draw from the freeway.
That's a really good point. Right, it'll be popular for sure. Anything else?
Thank you, David. I'd just like to add one thing real quick. So when you brought up that one slide that showed the big rock pictures, if you will, those are conceptual. So those could change, like the birding observation or the pavilion or the restrooms, those all could change. So I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that.
Water fountains and stuff in here and benches, places for people.
Yes, the restroom, is plumbed with water, and so there is planned to be a drinking fountain either attached to or next to the restroom area. And yes, in terms of furnishings, there's picnic tables, benches, various seating opportunities throughout the park. Thank you.
This is, I've got a question.
Counselor Grousman. Can you hear me?
Yes,
You can, Joe.
My question is, even though this is a rendition, I'm trying to envision what lighting would be utilized for this area around the restrooms and the whole playground.
Well, there's
Do you
lighting.
have any idea what that would look like with the lighting?
So we have lighting around the entrance, the parking area, the restrooms, but the park is only open dusk to dawn, so we're not going to have the lighting around the play area or the pavilions. Basically only gonna be open dusk to dawn. Dawn to dusk.
So that's not part of the overall cost as it stands now is it doesn't have any lighting for the playground area.
Correct.
Okay,
The idea is to discourage playground use after dark.
all right.
What are the size of the pavilions? Cover, whatever you want to call it. The pavilions themselves, what are we looking at size wise?
They're large enough to accommodate a couple picnic tables. I can't remember the exact dimensions. It's something like
20 by 12.
16 by
20 by 16.
20 by 16.
Okay.
That's right.
probably.
And just for the heck of it, how much does one of those things cost?
So
Today or?
today's dollars about $75,000. We estimated at the time at $25,000 each. So there's just give you an idea on that. That's what it's in the cost.
That's for the pavilion?
Pavilion only.
That includes the pavilion and the installation associated costs.
Isn't that
I'm
crazy?
just thinking Costco has a real nice 12 by 16 pavilion that's really super good for, $1,500. All you have to do is assemble. Well, if you get a dozen of them.
That's understandable. We need something that's structurally sound, so because of liability, so.
Yeah, these structures need to be engineered. They need to be approved by the city. They need to be seismic. And, it's not residential scale. We're looking at structures that will last, decades and decades.
I think this is really beautiful. It seems excessive to me for a natural nature area. I'd like to see the farm be more rustic personally. I like
The concept of the design is we're trying to address that natural, if you will, concept. Some of them are more modern, some of the player equipment, but we are trying to keep it as natural as possible.
It also looks like it's going to require a lot of maintenance from the city staff.
So that's been a high priority, so we've been trying to keep that as minimal as possible.
Just in regard to the natural part of this, it's important that everything is ADA accessible. So we can't just throw bark chips out there or something like that. It's got to be compatible for accessible for wheelchairs and all different abilities. And that does restrict the materials that are used.
I think it looks really like it fits in well with that type of environment. The playground type of equipment is a lot different than normal playground equipment. It actually looks a lot more rustic and more like pond. I like it a lot.
Another park on that side of town,
Right.
and that's perfect.
Yeah. And I know Friends of Fort Pond have worked really hard to get grant money and to put something like this together. They're like the driving force for
Well, and
this.
to keep it clean and mowed and,
And they continue to be driving force.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing awesome work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On to the consent agenda, November 8th, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion?
The consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Have a vote.
Counselor Daigle,
Yes.
Counselor Whitaker,
Yes.
Counselor Smalley, Counselor Grousman,
Yes.
Counselor Hamilton, Counselor Boggs,
Aye.
Mayor Sumner,
Aye.
motion carries.
Council business, ordinance number 1087, Clark Property Management LLC, plan amendment and zone change, second reading and adoption. Your recorder to read.
Ordinance number 1087, Clark Property Management LLC, plan amendment and zone change, second reading and adoption. An ordinance amending the City of Sutherland Comprehensive Plan Map and Zoning Map to amend the comprehensive plan map from community commercial and low density to high density, concurrent with zoning map change from the community commercial C3 and low density residential R1 to multifamily residential R3 for property described as tax lot 323 in section 19B of Township 25 South, Range 05 West. The subject 3.75 acre property is located at 0 Dakota Street and described herein.
Staff report, city planner.
Mayor, City Council, Jamie Firker, City Planner. I will use that report as it stands. I had the reading last month. Any questions?
Have a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the second reading of the adoption of ordinance 1087.
Motion and second to approve second reading and adoption of ordinance number 1087, Clark Property Management LLC, in discussion.
Counselor Daigle,
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker,
Aye.
Counselor Smalley, Counselor Grousman,
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton, Counselor Boggs, Mayor Sumner,
Aye.
motion carries. It's kind of an extra noise in there. What was that?
Staff report, Fran.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Recorder Diane Harris. We have a Janine Hartley, thank you, that applied for the Budget Committee. She does live outside city limits. Our municipal code does allow for one person to live outside city limits that is on the Budget Committee. Now, that is different from the Planning Commission. Planning Commission, you can live outside city limits, but you have to live in the urban growth boundary within that. So she has applied. She cannot be here tonight because she had a family emergency, but she did send something for me to read if you would like for me to do so. Ready? Thank you for your consideration to serve on the Sutherland Budget Committee. I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, but I'm very interested in using my skills and experience to help our community. I have been in the Umpqua Valley for about 8 years after moving from Minnesota to accept a job as a program officer at the Ford Family Foundation. I currently work as an administrator at the Douglas ESD, focused on youth development and career-connected learning programs. Throughout my career, I have helped hundreds of nonprofits and public agencies organize, manage, and report on their operating and program budgets, and been successful in securing many public and private grants for the community-centered projects, large and small. I have been a property owner out on Platte Eye Road for the last 2 years, and I am committed to the smart and prudent growth of our community of Sutherland. Thank you for your consideration. Warmly, Janine. Out on Platte Eye, it's out east of town.
So she considers herself living in Sutherland, so she says length of residency in Sutherland, 81.5.
Mm-hmm.
Have a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Janine Hartley to the Budget Committee.
A second.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to appoint Janine Hartley to the Budget Committee. term ending December 31st, 2022, as presented. Any discussion? Vote.
Counselor Daigle. Counselor Whitaker. Counselor Smalley.
Yes.
Counselor Grousman.
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton. Counselor Boggs.
Aye.
Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Central Park multi-use staging area, discussion, staff report.
Sumner, Council Brian Elliott, Development Director. Staff report is to give an update to you all regarding the Central Park multi-use staging area. You guys recall back during the 2021-22 budget, brought up as part of the strategic priority, and at that time, we had an estimated budget of an estimated cost of construction with design for $225. As you guys can see in the staff report, that cost now is a whopping $508,496,000. Again, pandemic is just driving the cost significantly higher. I think this is a great item to our Central Park project, but staff needs a direction from City Council whether to move forward with design and construction. This project is funded with the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We have the funds to move forward with it, but there was such an increase that we need to bring it back to City Council to get a direction whether to move forward.
Forward as an options.
Staging area. Pardon? So during design, we met with city staff, engineer, and had different drawings, and this was the one that we felt that would meet all uses and future uses, current uses and future uses for the community. So I'd like to say yes, but there's another one that we could review, but this one really meets the needs for our current entertainment, I guess.
Just Larry coming back.
Future entertainment. Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about this? To me, I can't really understand if this is just a solid cement, or is it a cover? And is it the cover lower?
It's both. So it is a concrete, reinforced concrete slab that will have ramps on both sides so vehicles can actually pull up there. There is a half shell, if you will, that is retractable. That is also removable, so to extend the life of the product. And basically it's 75.2 inches across the front and about, I guess the half shell is about 67 inches or 67 feet on the back end of that. There is a 12-foot opening in the front for clearance, so pretty good sized vehicle can come across the front. It will be designed for the PA system, electrical, the Christmas trees, for that 50-foot Christmas tree. It'd also be designed to be able to install that at this here.
So what are you thinking, that during the winter we wouldn't have the half shell up there and just do add so that you could see the trees all around?
Correct. We could, if we so desired in wintertime, we could remove that half shell.
But the half shell folds down.
It does, it retracts down.
Why, it seems like an awful lot of money to have this half shell for like 6 concerts in the summer.
Well, we're thinking with the development of this, if we move forward, that it's going to attract more than 6. So more than just 6 to constantly any other function.
Besides, you have the sunshine in the summertime.
Correct.
I mean, whoever's using that thing is gonna roast if you don't have some kind of cover over, or if you have a band up there, something like that.
Could we explore maybe having a corporate sponsor for some of this? I mean, like the big stadiums are all sponsored by some corporation,
Mm.
like the Arrowhead Pond. Baseball team, things like that.
I would need the direction on that, I guess.
My other thought is how far from the corner is it? Because if you have a stage shell, I'm not sure, I think it might cause a little bit of,
So that was taken into consideration. I can't remember the exact measurements, but that was taken into consideration, so we wouldn't have to blind or create blind spots there on that corner.
and my last question is, having the shell up, is that going to cause issues with people looking inside or teens going inside and causing issues? It's just another place for things to happen inside.
Could potentially add some extra work for this other team's partner.
Can you go back to ARPA with the new estimate and see if they come up for us to fund or no?
So all the funds have not been spoken for. We had 225 earmarked for this. And I don't know if the councilors remember at budget time, we were talking about, we had earmarked certain things, but more than 50% of the money was just in the budget, not earmarked for anything. So there is funds there available if you so choose to use it this way.
In my opinion, as bad as we need that, I don't think it will be awesome. This stuff has got to come down. I mean, that's ridiculous to more than double in price.
Well, in the meeting that we had about a month ago with some engineers, what was relayed to us in that meeting, per year, we're seeing a 20 to 25% increase for above ground construction, and they don't see anything.
Counselor
Is there
Grossman.
money from, I'm sorry, is there money from COVID, since it's carpet, that can go towards that also?
That's what she's saying.
Oh,
And those funds were passed under the guise of everybody needs this money because of COVID. So.
Counselor Grossman has his hand up to speak.
Is Counselor Hamilton finished?
yes, she is.
I have two things. One is, since it's that much money, is Central Park the optimum place for it? Or could we consider maybe the fire behind the fire station? Or I don't know about Ford's Pond because you need to have it kind of quiet there. But I'm just curious if that's the best location. Second thing I have is the staging area. It says it's 71 in the explanation, 71.0 inches. That's probably an error for the dimension in explanation. So, but I'm interested in whether we would maybe defer it until we find out if that's the best park to have the cover. I'll be out.
There's also the phased approach, but we need to go with concrete, of course, concrete and do the cover at a later date, but we've seen 3 cost increases on that. We've seen I think it was a 30% cost increase the last time. It was like a month and a half. So I'm not sure. And that also with that, that needs to be purchased prior to construction because it's sole priority or whatever. They won't give us the plan in order to design it.
So if that's something we can purchase and then having stories on it.
Have you thought, is this the best place in the park to put it? I'm just wondering, it's kind of like when you're driving down Central, you're gonna see this big thing, and it just seems like it's not the best looking thing right on Central. It's kind of like a big eyesore, I don't know. With a pretty park, you know, and I'm wondering if there's a better location in the park that you could put it, that it's not the focal point you're gonna see driving down Central Avenue. Does that make sense?
It does, but we have the, we have the community center, we have the splash pad, we have the train, we have the tennis courts.
Maybe back up towards the tennis courts looking at. Is that what you're talking about?
But then the
The
Christmas
seating,
trees.
we were thinking, in order for the seating for events and stuff, this would face towards the area that's the largest to see, you know, for the seating. And also,
The sun.
we're not really losing any of Central Park because of this location, because it's where that rose garden, if you will, that particular area is at. So we're not really losing, I guess, area that is being utilized now.
Yeah.
Just needs to shade that.
But also you want the Christmas trees to be highly visible during the holiday season, right? And that's, they're gonna be staged on there as well. I mean, the cover will come off and yeah, it'll pop pretty good.
There's plenty of room for all the kids who are playing soccer and football and all that stuff.
Because that's utilizing the existing.
Yeah, the impact as far as the square footage of the play area, it's minimal. Basically, that it's that rose garden.
Brian, is that cover hard to put up and down?
It's gonna take a few of the Public Works gentlemen to do that. Yeah.
Can we get it a color that blends in with the park?
We can research that. We can see what colors are available.
Like grass green? Yeah.
I'll just pipe in, Madam Mayor, you know, I'm not trying to inappropriately influence or anything. My feeling was at some point in time, what?
I don't think the mic's on, is it?
Should be. Batteries are dead.
Did you have to say that?
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
that battery's probably go dead again. My point was that there was a lot of thought put into this by the Parks Advisory Committee, your citizen group to help to organize it. You even, first, new counselors now, but council thought this was a high priority at one point and wanted to do it. My response to staff was, we will never again have ARPA money and be able to do this ever again. If not now, when, because it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that the highest and best use of those funds spent, this is probably up there along with the park behind the fire station that I promised Larry. I don't like it, but I think they're right. I don't see it coming down soon enough for the broad community benefit 5 years from now, if we're lucky. That's all.
Does that ARPA money have to be put into the channel or can it go to like Forge Pond?
Well, it has,
Use the other microphone, Jerry.
it has. They have some restrictions on it. I don't think you could do it at Ford's Pond. But I don't think Ford's Pond is the proper venue.
So it has to be fully shown.
No. The money has to be spent on infrastructure, tourism oriented, or economic development. Pardon, sir?
So we could put the money to the pond instead of the structure of the park.
Yes, you wouldn't have the structured bandstand and you would put it into Ford's Pond, or do both. Or fight Larry because we want to do that. You guys want to do that new community park behind the fire station.
One of the things that we as a city are interested in is attracting people to the city of Sutherland. And we know with, for instance, the Blackberry Festival, that there's a lot of people who come here from out of town. And if you have, let's call it an amphitheater kind of thing, staging area, you can have a lot of things that happen there. Where you would be bringing people into Sutherland from the outskirts. And that would help Sutherland grow, and it would help the businesses of Sutherland survive, prosper. So it's a lot more money than we thought it was going to be. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's money well spent.
It sure does well for Roseburg, but they're.
Mhm.
Would it be in August, the band thing, would that go there too, or would that still be over?
Oh, the country music festival.
Yeah.
Well, I really can't speak authoritatively on that. What I have heard is that they would incorporate that possibly and have some side stages, and they'd be able to use that as one of the side stages. They'd still probably have a main act over there, but they'd have some other options to have other acts going as well.
So at the end of the day, you budgeted for this at a certain level, and we weren't about to just take it for granted, even though there was the money there, almost $1 million. I need at least some by consensus for you to say, yeah, go ahead, bring a contract back to us to approve that.
And you said 500?
508. And some change.
Probably that's a 550.
So you want just a consensus now?
Yeah,
I say since we're using part of that, is that what it's called?
ARPA,
ARPA.
American Recovery Act.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead.
Where does your rest come from?
It's all coming from that.
500.
Yeah, the whole 500.
Unless you were willing to donate.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we can. I mean, I respect that proposal. We'll, reach out to some possible corporate sponsors who might be willing to do that.
I think that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. So who knows? We could be bringing a contract back to you for 380,000 because we got 100 and some thousand. Who knows? I mean, I can't say yes. I can't say no.
Raleigh Mobile Diesel on the top of it.
Tax write-off, right?
So do we know what, does Roseburg have sponsors like that?
I don't know.
Talk to them, do we know?
I don't know. I know Medford does, but I don't.
They have a lot of sponsors for the half shell process. Leadville, several others.
But
That's
yeah,
what I asked.
What kind of a timeline are you looking at to do this?
If
When
they get the
would
direction,
you anticipate being done with it?
we anticipate it being done before this comes on.
Before the upcoming season?
Yep.
So we don't have time to lay back till the spring and see if these construction prices come down, materials with
Correct.
things.
We were gonna move, if we got the direction, we were gonna move forward. The goal was to have this available this summer.
I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that. I like it. though. I think it'd be a great thing for Southern.
It all comes out of your budget, it's still taxpayer dollars, it's just,
No, it's federal money given to us to spend.
you think they get their money from, for Christ's sake? We're the government, you know where money goes.
They don't get it from us. They just print it.
gotta do something, though. Well.
We need
What do we do?
Yeah,
So, we are, give you, the authority to bring back the, we want to bring back the, vote to us.
Yeah, we'll bring back a contract.
Contract for us to-
Yeah, but I don't want to bring it back if at least not a strong majority of you agree to that.
Larry, are you willing to go forward?
Yes, you bet.
Gary? You want to go forward?
Yeah, I think so.
Todd?
I think we gotta sit and wait a little bit, but bring back some numbers. and look at it.
Well,
If it's ARPA money, I'm all for it.
no, for- I think you have a majority. And Tom can think
How
about.
about-
it and bring it back.
Joe?
Looking at the corporate sponsors.
Yeah,
We appreciate that. And what we can do is we can move forward with the design, go out to bid, bring the bid to you guys, and you guys can make the final decision on that one.
And Joe, are you willing to go forward with it? With the bid, looking at the bid?
You need to unmute, Joe.
I like
Can you
to do it that
unmute,
way
Joe?
personally.
Joe, can you unmute?
Oh, there we are. I had another screen that flew up there and I couldn't get to you guys. I'm for it. I know that during the summer, when we had the music in the park, we had 150, 200 people to a lot of them. So I'd be for it to go forward and consider it again.
Right. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Strategic plan update. Yeah.
Mayor, council, so this is just a report about our new signs. As you know, probably years ago, we started a pilot project to change out those old green and white signs with some bigger, brighter signs that were more legible. Did I take a lot of wine? Really?
He's out, he's out.
Oh. Anyway, we did it from
Oh,
State
that's not on
Street.
my agenda.
Excuse me.
We did it from State Street East. All the feedback was positive, but central improvement project happened and some other stuff. And in the meantime, we've changed our logo. And so we're kind of, we're waiting for a, oh my gosh.
My bad. My bad.
Do I need to get my gavel?
Yeah. Anyway, the next step is to move west from State Street to the end of town. And so we're waiting on a quote, on a new quote for those, and we plan to move forward here this spring on replacing those signs. That's it. That's
Will we be just doing central or we're gonna be doing east?
At this
North
point,
and south too?
it's just off central. It's all we're really looking at right now. We may radiate out from there and go north and south to 6th Street and 4th Street and all that. But that's a lot more signs, and these things are more expensive.
So I read that you're putting a logo on it.
Well, the logo is on the old ones. There's a little arch there on top, and the city logo is right there. And that was the old flag.
Which I like, but my concern is he's gonna retire in a year or two. We might get another city manager that says, oh, let's do a new logo. So why put the logos on?
And we don't have, we don't have
That's a
to.
good
They were
point.
just on the old ones, and
That's a good point.
so I
No, it's not.
kind of did that.
Or are we gonna go back and change all the old ones to the new logo?
At this
I
time, we're
know.
not going to do that right now, not until they wear out.
So see, that would look funny. having-
We like them both.
I bet you nobody notices.
Oh, I look at them.
Well, we'd be happy to take direction from council on that. I don't care much one way or another. So anyway, that's the report. But we have time to figure out which logo we want, or if one at all. Maybe a little bit.
I think I mean, central.
Oh, yeah.
But then you don't want two up there. That's gonna look,
People aren't gonna notice.
I think if
Notice
you,
the logo on it, but they're gonna notice the logo.
If they're only going off of central, then let's just leave them the way they are. Can't you? We ought to just get the old style and put them along central. And then if we want to put more out to the north and south, then we can change and put new ones if we want.
The point is we're trying to change people's attitude about our city. We aren't just a city of flags. We are a land of opportunity for people to come and raise a family in equal, equally treating people fairly. And, you know, I mean, I don't mean any offense, but, you know, the American flag is great. It's wonderful, but it sends a singular message. We like the American flag. It doesn't tell people you're welcome here. There's a job, there's an economy, there's a great community way of life, and a beautiful environment.
I think that's a wonderful speech, but I don't think the person looking at the sign is going to see all of what you just said.
That's
What's
what
your
our-
opinion?
That's what our logo is now. So I don't know if we want to go backwards and put our old one on all of our new signs. Especially because those other ones are older and once we start replacing those, we're gonna get the new one.
I think I agree with him. I don't care.
Well, the only thing people are looking at for street signs is know where in the hell they're at. They could care less what's on top of the sign.
That's a good point.
Just have a nice-
Thank you, Debbie.
Lord.
So I agree with you, actually.
well, it would be cheaper.
For Christ's sake. Put up a street sign, call it good.
Hey,
Consider it done. Pick out your own direction.
Who's the backseater?
On the police department recruitment and retention, new technology and facility security.
I'm sorry, I wrote that. Make it quick. No.
Mayor, Council, Colonel, Chief of Police. As you saw in my staff report, it's on the council priorities. It's an update for that. It's pretty long and drawn out. So if you have any questions on any of the priorities, I can take your questions. There's a couple things at the end I want to hit on though. So do you have any questions about the recruitment and retention ideas that we had in the staff report? What about the facilities security? Good. This is easier and faster than we thought. So speaking of legible signs, under technology, that's one I kind of want to talk a little bit about. I hope that's not my wife's phone. Like that way. So anyway, we've been looking into different signs. As you know, we lost our speed sign some time ago, and it's a $30,000 unit to replace nowadays. I don't know, even that was like 2 months ago, so it's probably double that. It's old. The whole computer's circuit board inside was just corroded and falling apart. So it didn't work no more. So I went out and found an alternative, which is a lot cheaper at $2,500. Is a mobile speed sign. I don't know if you've seen it in town yet, but I put it up in front of the police department initially. And then went on the east side with it where it's currently at right now. And it's making a huge impact. People don't even see the sign coming to town that says 35. But I have our speed sign, which flashes red and blues at you if you're going too fast. That's when I decided to stop. What's that?
Is it very noticeable?
Yeah.
If you're going over 5 over.
Yeah, it flashes at you, and And then if you go too fast, it'll actually flash red blue lights at you. That's, you know, you hit the threshold. So it stops. Yeah, but it takes, keeps track of how fast people are going, how many cars have went through that area. There's a whole bunch of different, it watches everything. So it's pretty neat. It's just like the sign that I had put out at the west end of town. That's a permanent unit. Those things are, you know, about $8,000 to put those in. So this is a lot cheaper, and it's mobile. So all I have to do is put up a mount somewhere else, and I can put that anywhere we need to have it. It's really cool. Really cool technology. The other one that I had in there was there's some stop signs, they're LED stop signs. If you've been to any other cities like Bend, Madras, there's some intersections that it seems like the stop signs will just blend into the background. Nobody watches them, nobody sees them, and eventually they just start going through them. Or visitors from out of town just can't see them. And with big red stop signs, we just can't see them. These things are the perimeter of them is lit up in LEDs. They flash at you. They're solar, and they're anywhere from about $700 to $1,000. There's some areas in Southern where we've had crashes. Maybe just need a little bit more attention to those intersections. So that's probably what I'm going to be moving forward to next.
Is one of them up here? Because I see a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, years ago we had a cop car hit there. So it's probably a priority intersection for one, but it's getting a lot more difficult with the amount of traffic that we're getting just because we get out of the police department. We make sure there's stop signs and we'll use a way to get out. So it's safer. So any questions on any of that? So if you do happen to see the stops or the speed signs out there, and if you want to move to a different location, make a phone call to me, tell me where you want it. I'll send it. It's about 20 minutes. And you need to slow down. We have noticed. Thank you.
Fire equipment funding update.
Keith Lane went home ill today. He just told me to tell you that they're still seeking every kind of funding they can for both a ladder truck and a new facility.
How's the ladder truck grant writing going?
It's been resubmitted.
Remodel Emergency Operations Center. Right?
Summer City Council, Brian Elling, Development Director. I'm gonna let the staff report stand, except that this project was on time. It would have been on budget, but we had a emergency sewer lateral that needed to be repaired. In order to do that, we had to saw cut and jackhammer out 40 feet of concrete floor. But besides that, we still completed this project on time as far as construction. So it is construct. There is some minor touch up on paint. Other than that, it is complete.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Good. City manager report, Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association report.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to
JB's
ask
been waiting.
JB to come up here and meet them and tell a short little story. If you go back 10 years ago, a public works supervisor by the name of Brian Elliott worked with EQ and a number of engineers to envision and obtain the design and implementation of the new wastewater treatment plant, which was about 40 years old at the time, maybe older. I was brought in, and part of my responsibility was to negotiate and find a way to acquire Ford's Pond for a wastewater affluent. The outcome of that was that I had a couple come into my office named Jim and Beth Hausman, who had an alternative proposal. At that point in time, we created two entities, one regulatory environmental and the other fund. And so the spotlight has been around Jim and Beth Hausman, the Prince Ford's Pond, and all the great things that they've done. In the meantime, there's been a huge group of people, employees and staff, that have dealt with the regulatory, which is the construction the completed construction, the testing and operation of a brand new wastewater treatment plant, which at the time, as you know, we weren't sure, but it now produces Class A water. As a result of that, and the completion and the operation of that, the city of Sutherland has received the Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association 2021 Municipal Water Protection Award. And JB, the supervisor of the wastewater system and all its operations, is here to receive that from the mayor. We wanted to give him and all the staff accolades and credit. And the plaque says, in an ongoing endeavor to recognize the outstanding efforts of municipalities for their contribution in the area of water pollution control and prevention. Signed, the Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association. So thank you, JB. Brian.
Speech.
I don't have a speech. Like I said, it was a team effort. Without everybody doing their work, it wouldn't have come together right. It goes all the way up to the upper management, right down to the guys out there making everything work. It's a good team effort all around. Thank you.
Awesome.
Council comments. Remember, our monthly meeting time is limited. Please ask questions. Comments, questions that can be handled on one-on-one basis to be handled outside the meeting. Councilor Diggle.
We discussed that in the chamber about this, and like all kinds of events on, nobody knows who's out there. We should find somebody and drop it in doing it.
Councilor Winter.
Boggs doesn't have anything. I'm telling you, it's all correct. Point to that. If you keep on doing it.
I don't have any comments.
Councilor Smalley.
I wanted to thank David for coming down. I can see he has a lot of personal interest in that. That's not sure what you guys do.
Councilor Grossman.
I have nothing to report.
Councilor Boggs. Councilor Hamilton. I just wanted to thank the chamber for hosting the Christmas tree lighting, and Diggle Street Garage and Sutherland Auto Care for doing the refreshments and all the other entertainment. It was really good event. We had a great turnout. We had like over 250 people show up. It was really nice, and our trees looked outstanding. The two still remain.
Yeah, what happened? Just
There
curious.
was another thing.
Well, maybe that color's not so good if we have.
And Stan will fix that.
It will make them stronger. I also thought the parade was outstanding too. We had the biggest crowd I've ever seen. I've been going through it for quite a few years, so. That was amazing. All the way from all the way down Comstock and all the way up Central. It was packed. There's not one spot you could see sidewalk. I swear. So it was a great event, and I'm glad to see that more and more people are coming to Sutherland for our event. And I hope
Land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Leading the way.
So that's all I have. So public comment. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to present information regarding items off the agenda. A time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. Any public comment? All right.
I don't think so, unless it's general.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
We have executive session.
I just hope it.
We'll take a 5-minute break before meeting in executive session. call under ORS 192.660. Performance evaluation of public officers and employees, review and evaluate the job performance.